The second I stepped into this energy, it was like walking into a room where somebody had just ripped the curtains wide open. Everything shifted, boom, just like that. The vibe went from foggy to crystal clear in a single heartbeat. What I'm picking up on is someone who's finally being forced to face the very truth they've been dodging like it was a speeding train. They're staring straight at the patterns, the motives, and the shady behaviors of a third party they once swore up and down was trustworthy. And now, oh, it's hitting them like a ton of bricks right to the chest. This isn't some soft little aha moment. This is a full-blown wake-up slap from the universe. The kind that makes you stop and go, dang, how did I not see that before? Their spirit feels shaken to the core. Their judgment feels exposed under a spotlight. And for the first time in a long time, they're finally recognizing the difference between someone who genuinely showed up for them and someone who only showed up to take advantage. It's loud, it's undeniable, and Spirit keeps repeating that same line over and over. They're seeing the truth they ignored for way too long. And the deeper I step into this energy, the louder it all gets. Almost like Spirit is pulling back every hidden layer of a story that was lived quietly behind closed doors. What I'm being shown is someone replaying conversations they once brushed off, reading between lines they used to ignore, catching signs they dismissed because they wanted to believe the best in somebody who absolutely did not earn that benefit of the doubt. There's a heaviness forming around their heart now. Not because the truth is surprising, but because they can finally feel the weight of how long they stayed in denial. They're realizing that the connection they thought was stable was actually being manipulated from underneath. Someone was shaping their reality, twisting narratives, feeding insecurity, planting doubt, and using emotional buttons like a remote control to maintain power. This third party didn't just nudge their decisions. They orchestrated them. This person positioned themselves as irreplaceable, as loyal, as the only one who really understood, while quietly steering your person away from their own intuition. Now that the illusion is cracking wide open, your person can see the difference so sharply it almost stings. Your presence brought clarity. Theirs brought chaos disguised as comfort. Your words grounded them. The other person's words stirred confusion. Every time you tried to move toward genuine connection, this third party redirected them into guilt, conflict, or doubt like it was their full-time job. Spirit keeps showing your person sitting alone with this realization, not avoiding it, not running from it, but actually letting the truth sink in. It's like they're finally understanding that the peace they felt with you wasn't a coincidence, and the tension they felt with the third party wasn't stress, wasn't pressure, wasn't just a phase. It was a message they refused to read. There is regret forming, but it's not dramatic or messy. It's quieter, deeper, the kind of regret that changes a person from the inside out. It's the moment when someone realizes they trusted the wrong voice and doubted the right one. They're seeing how many times you extended patience, understanding, and sincerity, and how easily the third party countered it with fear, jealousy, and subtle pressure meant to keep your person dependent. Spirit says the illusion is collapsing, and this collapse is not quiet. It's loud, it's unavoidable, and it's forcing your person to confront truths they've dodged for way too long. If you think this is intense, wait until you hear what happens next, because the emotional earthquake hasn't even hit its peak yet. The second I stepped into this energy, it was like walking into a room where somebody had just ripped the curtains wide open. Everything shifted, boom, just like that. The vibe went from foggy to crystal clear in a single heartbeat. What I'm picking up on is someone who's finally being forced to face the very truth they've been dodging like it was a speeding train. They're staring straight at the patterns, the motives, and the shady behaviors of a third party they once swore up and down was trustworthy. And now, oh, it's hitting them like a ton of bricks right to the chest. This isn't some soft little aha moment. This is a full-blown wake-up slap from the universe. The kind that makes you stop and go, dang, how did I not see that before? Their spirit feels shaken to the core. Their judgment feels exposed under a spotlight. And for the first time in a long time, they're finally recognizing the difference between someone who genuinely showed up for them and someone who only showed up to take advantage. It's loud, it's undeniable, and spirit keeps repeating that same line over and over. They're seeing the truth they ignored for way too long. And the deeper I step into this energy, the louder it all gets. Almost like spirit is pulling back every hidden layer of a story that was lived quietly behind closed doors. What I'm being shown is someone replaying conversations they once brushed off, reading between lines they used to ignore, catching signs they dismissed because they wanted to believe the best in somebody who absolutely did not earn that benefit of the doubt. There's a heaviness forming around their heart now, not because the truth is surprising, but because they can finally feel the weight of how long they stayed in denial. They're realizing that the connection they thought was stable was actually being manipulated from underneath. Someone was shaping their reality, twisting narratives, feeding insecurity, planting doubt, and using emotional buttons like a remote control to maintain power. This third party didn't just nudge their decisions, they orchestrated them. This person positioned themselves as irreplaceable, as loyal, as the only one who really understood, while quietly steering your person away from their own intuition. Now that the illusion is cracking wide open, your person can see the difference so sharply it almost stings. Your presence brought clarity. Theirs brought chaos disguised as comfort. Your words grounded them. The other person's words stirred confusion. Every time you tried to move toward genuine connection, this third party redirected them into guilt, conflict, or doubt like it was their full-time job. Spirit keeps showing your person sitting alone with this realization, not avoiding it, not running from it, but actually letting the truth sink in. It's like they're finally understanding that the peace they felt with you wasn't a coincidence, and the tension they felt with the third party wasn't stress, wasn't pressure, wasn't just a phase. It was a message they refused to read. There is regret forming, but it's not dramatic or messy. It's quieter, deeper, the kind of regret that changes a person from the inside out. It's the moment when someone realizes they trusted the wrong voice and doubted the right one. They're seeing how many times you extended patience, understanding, and sincerity, and how easily the third party countered it with fear, jealousy, and subtle pressure meant to keep your person dependent. Spirit says the illusion is collapsing, and this collapse is not quiet. It's loud, it's unavoidable, and it's forcing your person to confront truths they've dodged for way too long. If you think this is intense, wait until you hear what happens next, because the emotional earthquake hasn't even hit its peak yet. When I move deeper into this energy, it feels like your person is standing in the wreckage of illusions they didn't even know they were living under. And honestly, the truth is hitting them harder than a late-night phone bill. Spirit keeps showing this moment where your person is replaying every small, subtle thing that the third party ever said about you. Every warning, every twisted comment, every "I'm just looking out for you" line that disguised jealousy as concern. And now they're going, hold up. That wasn't protection. That was manipulation. Their mind is flipping through memories like a movie reel that's suddenly running in reverse, showing them the real meaning behind things they shrugged off before. It's wild because your energy, even from a distance, feels clean, clear, genuine, and they're finally seeing how threatened the third party felt by that. This wasn't random drama. This wasn't accidental tension. This was a calculated setup, little seeds planted over time to make your person second guess themselves, second guess you, and rely more heavily on the manipulator pulling strings behind the scenes. The third party wasn't just playing dirty. They had a whole playbook of emotional games. And now, that playbook has been exposed. Your person is realizing how often they allowed someone else to influence their choices by tapping into guilt, loyalty, fear, or obligation. But the deeper truth is that your presence stirred something real in them, something the third party could never replicate, something they wanted to crush. Spirit says your person is finally accepting that the tension wasn't because of you. It was because the third party couldn't control the connection between you two. And here's the kicker. Your person is kind of mad at themselves, not in a self-hating way, but in a, how did I fall for that way? They're realizing they gave someone the keys to their mind, letting them drive decisions that weren't theirs to make. The worst part? They trusted that person because they thought loyalty meant closeness. But they're learning loyalty without honesty is just manipulation dressed up in a nice outfit. Spirit is showing this mental shift happening inside them where they're recognizing your energy as the safe one, the genuine one, the one that never demanded anything but connection. And the third party's energy is coming into sharper focus as possessive, clingy, and strategic. They're realizing that someone who truly wants what's best for you doesn't need to isolate you from everyone who brings you peace. There's also a big emotional release coming through, almost like your person is grieving the version of themselves they were when they couldn't see the truth. They're understanding how they were kept small, kept confused, kept emotionally managed by someone who didn't want them to grow, because growth would have revealed the manipulation. And the moment you stepped into the picture with sincerity and calmness, it shook everything the third party built. Your person is finally remembering how natural it felt being around you. Even if things between you two were complicated, they're remembering how you didn't ask for anything but truth, how you didn't force, pressure, or guilt trip. And it's hitting them that the love or interest they felt wasn't imagined. It was real. It was strong. It was mutual. And that's exactly why the third party panicked. Now Spirit is showing your person entering a stage of reclaiming their inner voice. Quietly at first, but strongly. They're no longer swallowing excuses or narratives from someone who benefited from keeping them in the dark. They're evaluating everything with fresh eyes, asking themselves, what do I feel? What do I want? Who actually had my back? It's a shift that changes everything. And trust me, if you think this realization is powerful, wait until you see the moment your person decides to confront the truth head on. Stepping into this next wave of energy feels like walking straight into the moment your person finally says, enough is enough. And it's powerful, like a storm that's been building for months finally breaking open. Spirit is showing me this huge internal shift where your person is no longer tiptoeing around the truth, no longer brushing off red flags, and no longer letting someone else dictate how they think, feel, or move. It's like their whole spirit woke up overnight. They're starting to sit with the uncomfortable truth that they allowed someone way too close to their decisions. Someone who had a personal agenda the whole time. But what's wild is how clear the contrast feels now. Your energy? Calm, honest, unforced. The third party's energy? Heavy, controlling, always something to hide. And as your person replays everything, they're realizing how often the third party's reactions made no sense unless you consider jealousy and insecurity were running the show. Spirit says your person is now questioning every moment that didn't sit right with them. Every time the third party got mad for no real reason. Every time they shifted the narrative. Every time they warned your person about you or twisted things you said. And now your person is thinking, wait, that wasn't protection. That was fear. That was sabotage. They're finally acknowledging that the third party wasn't afraid of losing your person. They were afraid of you two forming a genuine, unstoppable bond. And the more your person sees this, the more they're realizing how much peace they felt around you. That peace wasn't a coincidence. It was alignment. It was authenticity. It was their soul recognizing something real. Meanwhile, the discomfort they felt around the third party wasn't stress. It was their intuition screaming for attention. Your person is also coming to terms with the emotional difference. With you, conversations felt open. You never pressured them, never guilted them, never tried to control the situation. But the third party? They used every emotional lever they could: guilt, fear, obligation, pity, drama. They played every card in the deck to keep your person under their influence. Spirit says your person is finally seeing how many times they silenced their own intuition because the third party made themselves appear needed. It's almost like your person is watching their old behavior from outside themselves, thinking, why was I so damn blind? But here's the thing. They're not beating themselves up. They're learning from it, growing from it, waking up from a long emotional fog. Now they're stepping into a phase where they're more protective of their own mind, their own energy, their own truth. They're pulling back from conversations that once dominated their thinking. They're questioning motives. They're noticing patterns. They're listening to their inner voice more than the noise around them. And for the first time in a long time, they're choosing clarity over comfort. There's also this powerful inner shift happening where they're realizing how deeply they misjudged your intentions. They're remembering the moments where you showed genuine care, the times you tried to be patient, the moments where you had no reason to show kindness, but did anyway. And it's making them see that they didn't just lose connection with you. They lost a version of themselves they actually liked. Spirit shows this incredibly human moment where your person is thinking about reaching out to you, not from guilt, not from fear, not from confusion, but from honesty. They want to come forward with clarity, not chaos. They want to explain, not excuse. They want to rebuild something that felt authentic before everything got tangled. This is the moment right before action, the internal shift that always comes before the external one. Your person is standing on the edge of choosing their truth, choosing their heart, choosing their peace, and choosing you. But the real plot twist? Your person is about to make a move that shocks everyone, including the third party. The report landed like a thunderclap in Washington, not because of its content, but because of who signed it. A senior analyst from a joint intelligence review board, someone who rarely speaks unless something is seriously off, had stamped the document with a bright red label: strategic emergency, unconfirmed threat vector. That wasn't normal. That phrase was used maybe twice in the last decade, and both times involved situations that made world leaders lose sleep. Inside the Situation Room, a small group gathered around a secured tablet as the document loaded. No one talked. No one cracked a joke. Everyone understood. When intel people get vague, something's wrong. When they get dramatic, something's very wrong. The report didn't accuse Troy of anything. It didn't confirm wrongdoing. It didn't list evidence. Instead, it flagged the behavior surrounding the ICC exit, like someone mapping shadows instead of the actual figures moving inside them. It pointed to diplomatic echoes, shifts in alliances, and encrypted comms that never lined up with official statements. According to the analyst, the pattern suggested that outside pressure strong enough to trigger a sudden ICC withdrawal, might exist. And that freaked everyone out. Because if the pressure came from inside Troy's government, that was one problem. But if it came from outside, from a foreign government, a multinational corporation, a secretive donor network, or some other powerhouse player, then the US, EU, and UN were suddenly dealing with a geopolitical ghost swinging real weight in West Africa. One official slammed his hand on the table. Why the hell can't we just ask him directly? Another shook her head. He's not answering anyone. Every channel we used before is cold. It's like someone told him not to pick up. That's when someone from the cyber division cleared their throat. Actually, there's more. They opened a secondary report. It detailed a pattern of blocked calls, ghosted diplomatic emails, and communication rerouting that didn't match Burkina Faso's usual cyber protocols. It was almost as if someone had constructed a digital firewall around the presidency, one that didn't belong to any known West African infrastructure. A different voice chimed in. So, someone cut us out of the loop? Not just us. The cyber officer replied. Everyone. That one sentence chilled the entire room, because only 3 types of groups had the capability to pull that off. 1. A hyper-funded state actor with cutting-edge cyber tools. 2. 3. A private intelligence firm with government-grade access. 4. 5. A rogue coalition that no one publicly acknowledged, but everyone secretly feared. 6. Nobody ranked those options from bad to worse because, honestly, they were all terrible. Meanwhile, Europe was panicking in a quieter, more elegant way. Ministers exchanged long sighs behind closed doors. Analysts whispered about black market geopolitical deals, and think tanks scrambled to draft risk assessments that made them sound smarter than the situation allowed. France, now sidelined in a region it once dominated, was trying to figure out whether this was the beginning of a new era or the ending of theirs. But back in Ouagadougou, where the heat carried dust like powdered copper, Troy stayed silent. No speeches, no interviews, no explanations. For a leader who usually spoke with fire, this sudden quiet made foreign observers even more uneasy. Some read it as confidence, others read it as secrecy, and some feared it meant he was preparing for something bigger, something none of them were ready for. Behind the scenes, however, Burkina Faso's internal intelligence circle wasn't calm at all. They were scrambling just as hard. A rush of encrypted memos swept across ministries. Advisors whispered in hallways where phones were banned. One insider described it as a sandstorm inside government walls. Every faction had a different narrative. Some believed Troy was playing political 4D chess. Others thought he was protecting classified operations. A few whispered about foreign manipulation. And one faction insisted he knew something dangerous, something he couldn't say. All of this built up pressure like steam in a sealed pipe, and when pressure rises, cracks eventually appear. By midnight, a new rumor slipped through the capital like smoke. Troy had scheduled a private meeting with someone whose identity wasn't in any government registry. Not local, not foreign, not official, not recorded, just a shadow folding into another shadow. Whatever happened in that room would either calm the storm or ignite something way bigger. But the real twist wasn't the secret meeting. It was who found out about it first, and what they planned to do before Tror could even open his mouth. Your person is finally starting to choose themselves, not the confused version, not the drained one, but the healed, awake, spiritually on point version of who they were always meant to be. And the wild thing? The more they reconnect with that stronger version of themselves, the louder the memory of you starts echoing in their energy. Not in a guilty dang, I messed up kind of way, and not in some sappy nostalgic vibe either. It's deeper than that. It's recognition. It's truth tapping them on the shoulder like, hey, remember what was real versus what was draining? Spirit is showing me that this shift is unlocking a whole new layer they've been dodging like crazy. This part of the story carries the weight of things they didn't want to admit. Emotional exhaustion, buried truths, and the brutal realization that the life they built wasn't rooted in love. It was rooted in fear. And now that fear is cracking apart, what's happening inside them is like walking through a mental landscape full of old echoes. Echoes they've tried to mute for years. Their mind keeps circling back to one heavy question. How did I let someone who wasn't aligned with me influence me that deeply? And this doesn't come from anger. It comes from finally waking up. Your person is realizing something huge. The third party didn't stumble into their life by accident. They slid right into an empty emotional space your person didn't even know they had. That empty space was created by old wounds, childhood patterns, past relationship disappointments, and a lifetime of trusting people who felt comfortable simply because honesty scared them. The third party filled that gap with all the right lines, familiar chaos, and emotional intensity that felt like connection, but was actually confusion dressed up as comfort. For someone already feeling lost, this chaos looked like stability, like a fake anchor in a storm. But now, clarity is hitting, and your person sees that the anchor wasn't grounding them at all. It was pulling them deeper into emotional quicksand. Spirit shows that your person now sees the pattern clearly. Every high moment with the third party was followed by a low that hit twice as hard. The kindness changed depending on their mood. The affection was on and off like a busted light switch. The reassurance was only offered when the third party feared losing their grip. Your person gave their trust, and the third party tightened their hold. And the more they tried to make it work, the more they drifted away from themselves. It wasn't intimacy. It was an emotional trap disguised as love. Now your person is replaying memories that once felt innocent, but now sting like hell. Times when the third party made subtle comments to trigger doubt. Times when insecurity was planted intentionally. Times when the third party reacted strangely whenever your name came up, because you were a threat to their control. Your person is finally seeing these moments through spiritual clarity instead of emotional fog. What's wild is how differently they acted around you. You grounded them. With you, they didn't need to pretend. You didn't drain them or confuse them. You challenged them in a healthy, honest way that scared them because it required vulnerability. It required truth, and truth is something they weren't ready to face. So they chose the chaos because it felt familiar. They chose the easy route even though it led them into emotional captivity. But comfort zones eventually become cages. And now, they see the bars clearly. They're realizing how much of themselves they sacrificed, how much peace they traded for confusion, how many lies they accepted just to avoid facing the truth standing right in front of them. This awakening isn't gentle. It's hitting hard. They're finally confronting choices they made out of fear and the people who benefited from their confusion. And the most shocking realization? They never doubted you. They doubted themselves because someone else needed them to. If this hit you right in the feels, Stick around. Part 2 dives into the deep emotional shift happening inside your person right now. And trust me, it gets real. As your person steps deeper into this emotional earthquake, Spirit makes something very clear. This isn't just about walking away from a messy third-party situation. This is a full-on internal reboot. The kind that hits like, damn, I really let all that slide? They're realizing that the chaos they accepted wasn't love at all. It was survival mode wrapped in fake affection and emotional games. Your person is now seeing how the third party didn't just happen into their life. They slipped in through cracks your person never healed. Cracks that came from old wounds, family patterns, and past relationships that taught them to accept instability like it was normal. That's why the third party felt familiar, not healthy, just familiar. Chaos was their comfort zone, and your person didn't even realize it until now. Now Spirit shows me your person remembering moment after moment where the third party acted shady. The mood swings for no reason. The guilt trips. The emotional emergencies that magically happened whenever your person tried to get space or clarity. The way the third party freaked out anytime your name, energy, or presence came up. Back then, your person didn't question it. But now it's clicking like crazy. They're realizing those reactions weren't love. They were fear of losing control. Your person is also seeing how often the third party played the victim. How often they exaggerated problems just to pull attention back toward themselves. They're seeing how they were made to carry emotional weight that never belonged to them. And honestly, it's blowing their mind how blind they were to it. But Spirit also shows me something deeper. Your person isn't just mad at the third party. They're finally acknowledging their own role in all of this. They're admitting that they were operating from emptiness, not truth. That they ignored red flags because they wanted to feel chosen. That they stayed in situations that drained them because they didn't believe they deserved better. And this part, this hurts them the most. They're grieving not just what happened. They're grieving the version of themselves who didn't know any better. The version who silenced intuition, pushed away healthy connections, and clung to dysfunction because it felt easier than facing their own truth. This grief isn't loud. It's quiet, honest, and heavy. The kind that hits in random moments, like when they're driving or brushing their teeth or trying to fall asleep. Suddenly the truth hits, and they just stop, because now they see the real difference between you and the third party. With the third party, they felt on edge, uncertain, drained, and constantly trying to manage someone else's emotions. With you, they felt seen. They felt grounded. They felt like they could breathe. No masks, no fakery, no emotional tightrope. That contrast is haunting them now. They're realizing that they didn't push you away because you were too much. They pushed you away because you saw too much. You saw the version of them they weren't ready to become. You asked for honesty, growth, vulnerability. All the things they were terrified to give because they never learned how to give them. But now, Spirit shows me your person finally stepping into accountability, finally admitting, I messed up. I ignored the truth. I let fear run the show. And this acknowledgement is transforming them, almost like they're waking up from a long, foggy dream they didn't even know they were in. Your person is beginning to rebuild from the base level, questioning their patterns, questioning their triggers, questioning why they accepted chaos for so long. They're reconnecting with intuition, reconnecting with emotional strength, reconnecting with parts of themselves they buried. They're finally understanding that what they had with the third party wasn't connection. It was trauma bonding dressed up as intensity. And what they had with you wasn't instability. It was alignment they weren't ready for. Now they're ready to choose differently, ready to choose truth over fear, ready to choose clarity over chaos, ready to choose authenticity, even if it scares them. And Spirit shows me this final vision. Your person standing at the edge of a new beginning, finally understanding that you weren't the confusion, you were the clarity. You weren't the chaos, they were living in it. You weren't the lesson, they were learning through losing you. And now they're ready to face everything they once ran from. If you're ready for me to reveal what your person plans to do next, and whether they're coming back your way, drop a comment and let me know.